The whole world is concerned about it, and if not, it ought to be due to nuclear weapons might soon be able to fly, that's all. Starts with the president of Russia, Putin, who has done so frequently used the fear of nuclear weapons in its conflict with Ukraine if the conflict didn't if a third party or in Russia's favor countries engaged effectively. According to sources claim that Russia is not winning the battle mostly because of third-party NATO nations participated in Putin's now marked off the nuclear danger checklist. NATO soldiers are practicing using nuclear weapons and in the United States. Hello and welcome to KYC News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. President Joe Biden's concern about nuclear war Armageddon has reached its peak in 60 years, and it's no longer news that only Armageddon is capable of causing the end of the world as we know it. The devastating potential resulting from how nuclear weapons function. For a moment, we pretend to be scientists. Everything is reduced to atoms at this moment. Every atom has a core in its center, referred to as the nucleus, which is made up with protons and neutrons in close proximity, although the quantity of protons varies depending on every component of the periodic table, including as a result, the amount of neutrons might change. Several species of some exist. Isotopes are substances they can be either steady or unstable. Atoms with a lengthy lifetime of instability. Notwithstanding this, and in their pursuit of such status, they need to get rid of their overabundance. The fact that they are neutrons unstable emitting extra neutrons is supported by a fierce energy release, the source of the energy used in nuclear weapons. Notwithstanding their explosions, their explosivity, more energy sources might exist with each nuclear bomb, their destructive force, such as that used by the Tsar Bomba that is still standing today, the strongest nuclear bomb ever developed, created, produced mostly nowadays by the Soviet Union, the terrifying force of the Tsar Bomba in Russia on October 24, 1961, was tested. 2.1 meters broad, 2.1 meters long, and 60,000 pounds, but Tsar Bomba was only dropped from a Tu-95V via parachute aircraft. The bomb independently detonated 13,050 feet above the Earth, released megatons of destructive explosions throughout 70-plus miles of land. No nuclear weapons have been tested to yet. Shown to be even half as effective as the Tsar Bomba, served as evidence of the Moscow's nuclear power, is the reason why one cannot overlook Russia's nuclear arsenal. Current threats besides Putin's vocal threats, several incidents have raised concerns across the international community in respect to possibility of Russian nuclear weapons. Firearms fired towards Ukraine is one such incident. Is the Russian-controlled liberation list. The Ukraine's annexations on September 30th, Russia declared Moscow has annexated 4 Ukrainian territories: Kherson, Luhansk, Donetsk, and Zaporizhia, with intentions to formally join them. Despite this, Russian soldiers are being compelled to recede in at 2 of the regions, at least. Our Ukrainian forces keep moving forward. Russia does not want to relinquish these territory, and it is yet unclear how far Putin would go to make certain that maybe nuclear weapons. Some signs have been noted by observers. Inside of nuclear-related activity, The Telegraph reported on October 3rd, Russia reported seeing a train with vehicles with armor from the 12th Principal Division of the Russian Ministry of Defense, which is in charge of Russian nuclear facilities' physical security generally. The vehicle's weaponry assigned to nuclear protection units, armed forces on the field. Blackjack bombers 4-2-160 and 3-295. There have supposedly also been Bear bombers seen at the Eleni Air Base in northern. When they eventually arrive in Russia, all 7 of these by late September nuclear weapons can be launched by bombers. A story in Italy's La Repubblica about weaponry newspaper then claims that Russia could be nearby to the 100-ton torpedo's live test named Poseidon, which is very important. One of many different torpedoes is the Poseidon. Russians have introduced new weaponry. Torpedo is President Vladimir Putin, a self-operating weapon system which can independently navigate to its target without outside guidance. It moves at a speed of 70 knots or more and the ability to dive to further depths of up to 3,280 feet than the torpedoes of NATO submarines. It has nuclear propulsion and can dive mechanism that effectively grants it limitless range with a two-handed weapon, nuclear weapon with a megaton yield of 125 times. superior than the 16 kiloton small in strength with such a boy bomb detonated on Hiroshima destructive force, comparatively quick. The capacity to dive for a torpedo Poseidon is challenging in the intangible depths. Unlikely to be intercepted a weapon like that launched at Ukraine, or the observations of 7 bombers at Olynya Air Base. Nuclear weapons delivery to Ukraine a catastrophe for Ukraine, because Russia might also suffer greatly from this. Because NATO might end up without response, but to use a few nuclear weapons of their own aircraft entering Russia. 5 of the NATO member nations, Belgium, Germany, Italy, and the all Turkeys, are nuclear capable from the Nuclear Cooperation Agreement with NATO. With 20 people in each of these nations, U.S. nuclear weapons are present in a region and supplying planes they'll use these weapons on. The other, France, the UK, and the U.S., are regarded as the primary nuclear weapons at currently powers. France has a stockpile. From a high of 300 nuclear warheads, combined 540 warheads, France's arsenal is a strategic adversary 51.6 megatons greater force than that of the 5. The Tsar Bomba. France is one. Authorized signatures on the combined with the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. China, the US, the UK, and Russia. The agreement pushed for the retirement of most nuclear weapons in existence today. 90% of nuclear warheads in the world are in the US scenario. The UK is another example. These 5 recognized national powers currently has 225 in stock. From a max stockpile of warheads, the 520 warheads flying the furthest of the modern warheads can go up to 7,500 miles. Slightly short of the circumference of planet. The U.S. is NATO's 3rd-ranking member. The treaty's authority, and by far is the greatest nuclear state in NATO. United States was the first nation to produce nuclear weapons, and is only nation to have applied them to warfare, referring to the little child and obese guy atomic bombs used in the attack. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed in World War II, ended destructively in 1945. The U.S. government has spent at least $10.1 trillion or more in spending current currency on nuclear weapons, among other things. This would finance 1054 nuclear tests conducted from 1945 until 1992. The largest of these experiments took place on the day of March 1, 1954, when the thermonuclear bomb, the bomb was dropped by Castle Bravo, provided a result that altered meteorological conditions, and even the scientists in America calculated 15 megatons. The United States has since developed a more strong B-41 bomb with a 25 yield megatons when American nuclear power was at its height. The nation possessed 70,000 nuclear weapons, more warheads than the total number of all. Conversely, other nuclear states together. As a result of the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, the United States has reduced its stockpile and has since nuclear warheads, 5428 of which 1644 are active and ready to be dismissed to prepare personnel for the U.S. and the entire NATO have started a 2-week workout program to improve personnel managing nuclear weapons. This experiment, which involves 14 nations, 60 or more planes, have steadfast tags. The start of NUM Steadfast was in October 17th and lasts through October 30th. Despite NATO's assertion that the drill has not associated with Russia's incursion into Ukraine, as it only occurs once a year routine training exercise, the issue there is still a chance of a nuclear war. War NATO planes are continuously flying in the midday. Every day, Russian nuclear threats. It's time Ukraine advances, and defending against Russian armies is simple. Expect to see nukes flying shortly. A past Secretary of Defense of the United States nuclear energy specialist William Perry, someone, nuclear policy, and weaponry who has often met Putin, believes Putin could accomplish goals via nuclear weapons, achieving victory and ensuring survival. The totalitarian regime of his numerous Russian nuclear weapons are now on high alert, even as the US and other NATO allies have increased surveillance actions of the Russian military and look for any indications of impending danger. Yet, despite all of these, the usage of weaponry in nuclear war may not be inevitable. High as it appears, simply too much at stake, even for should a nuclear war break out. Russia mutually guaranteed annihilation between NATO and Russia have been sufficient to immediately deactivate all nuclear buttons. Nearly 70 years, and it probably will continue for the foreseeable future in that manner. Nevertheless, should Russia defy all odds? Via choosing to use nuclear weapons and compel NATO to respond, it is secure to imply that NATO is ready to employ nuclear weapons. Weapons have been used and their forces. This is only one of two ways you may prepare for it. Measures to maintain Russia's compliance, whereas the other is due to your subscription. Giving this video a subscribe to this channel, kindly do so right away to restore. I appreciate your attention and